parents who see Miss Tree. She lives in a house that is mostly green, except for the chimney and windows and walls, and one or two places just down the halls, and it's filled with rabbits and newts and snails, and fat little puppies that wag their tails, and a whale and a tiger and elephants too.
Well, maybe not elephants.
Hi. How do you like our two penguins? Do you think they both came from the same place? Elizabeth's having a hard time holding this one up because it's so heavy. What do you think about these penguins, Elizabeth?
I like them both.
You like them both? Are they both real penguins, Ace?
No.
No. Which one is the real penguin?
That one.
This is the real penguin. And this is what is it, Elizabeth?
Gourd.
Really a gourd. My friend, Mrs. Hart, the gourd lady, gave it to me one time when she came to visit. It's made out of a penguin gourd. It grows that shape, but then she painted it to make it look more like a penguin and put on felt wings. But I thought it'd be fun today if we found out about families, the families that birds belong to. Do you know that everything that's alive in the world belongs to a family? We belong to families, and so do plants, and so do birds, and all other animals, and even some things that aren't alive have families. My friend Mr. Williams, the gem cutter, told us about gems having families. And then I have another friend who's a puppet lady, and she said they're families of puppets. So a family is a nice idea to think about. Let's find out about bird families today. If this penguin's really a gourd, he belongs to the
Gourd
family, which is the same family the squashes and pumpkins belong to. And cucumbers and other good things to eat. Now, what do you suppose scientists use to find out which birds belong in which families? How do they decide what family to put birds in, especially if they find a new bird?
Look in their insides.
Right. Some things they find out by looking inside the bird. That's dissecting a bird. But mostly, in the beginning anyway, they use things that they can see, like the bill.
And the eyes.
And probably something about the eyes. The bill and the feet
And the
are very
color.
important. The color's not so important, but the bill and the feet and the way the feathers are arranged and how many of each kind of feather they have. And also the tail. We have a Aurora here to look at too. And while Aurora's sitting so nicely on the back of the chair, take a look at his toes. I know we talk about Aurora's toes every once in a while. How many toes does he have, Ace?
Four.
And what's strange about Aurora's toes? Are all four of them hanging down in front?
No.
No. How are they arranged?
There's two in the front. No, three in the front. And one in the back. Or two in the
If he has
front,
four
two.
toes, how many can you see in front?
Two.
Two in front, right.
And
so
two
there
in back.
so there have to be two in back, right? When we go take Aurora over to the discovery table, we'll find out that we have another bird over there that has his toes arranged the same way, but he belongs in a different family. What family does Aurora belong to?
Parrot.
The parrot family. Okay, let's take our penguin and our parrot over to the discovery table and find out more about bird families. You want to carry the penguin? Thank you, Elizabeth. Let's see, Aurora. Here you are. Move over and I'll put your sunflower seeds back. I think he likes you, Ace, even if you aren't in the parrot family. Not only do scientists put birds in families, but they put the families in order from the family that's the most primitive, that means the family that's most like the ancient birds, to the families that are most complicated. And where do you think penguins are? Do you think they're a very modern kind of bird? Or do you think they've probably been around for a long time?
Long time.
Right. They're the very first family on the list of bird families. And their name is Spheniscidae. All the families have fancy names that end in I-D-A-E. Spheniscidae. And Aurora belongs to the Psittacidae. Psittacidae, that starts with a P. You wouldn't believe it, but it starts with a P. Psittacidae. But Spheniscidae, they all have Latin names, and you have to, if you're a good Latin scholar, you can look it up and find out what that means. But something about a wedge is what the name of the penguin family means, but I'm not sure where the wedge is. Maybe it means his bill is sort of wedge-shaped. But they're the very first family on the list of bird families of the world. How many families of birds would you think there are in the whole world?
About 1,000.
Not that many.
About
100.
500.
Well, Ace is pretty close, 170. All the birds in the world have been put into 170 families. And the penguins are the first family. So let's take a look and see what there is unusual about a penguin. The bill is very important. What do you think a penguin uses his bill for?
Catching fish.
Fish and shrimp, right. Do you think he stands along the edge of the ocean and catches them?
No.
How?
He could dive
Swims.
under.
Right. He's very well adapted for swimming. Look at his wings. Reach out and feel them. And until you feel these wings, you think that they're just scales.
Like velvet.
They're like velvet, and they're very tough. And when he uses them to get through the water, he can really go fast. Can penguins fly?
No.
No, they don't have any big, long feathers like most birds that they can fly with. This is an Adelie penguin, capital A-D-E-L-I-E. And where do you suppose it came from?
Antarctica.
Antarctica. I have a friend who's a scientist, and he went to Antarctica 13 years ago and brought back this penguin to study. He brought it back dead and frozen, and it's been frozen for 13 years. Scientists have special ways for collecting just one or two animals that they want to study, and he put a ether. He put it to sleep with ether.
What's ether?
Well, it's like, you know, when you go to the hospital to have an operation, they give you something to make you go to sleep just a little bit. But ether is something that scientists use to kill a specimen that they want to take back to the laboratory and find out more about it. He has a very interesting tail, too. It's very stiff and pointy, the feathers of his tail, and he uses that as a rudder to steer himself with when he's swimming through the ocean, just back and forth to keep himself straight, you know, like a rudder on a boat. Yeah. Let's look at his toes. How many can you see?
3.
Just 3. Is that like Aurora?
No.
He only has 3 toes, and they're...
There's 4 up here.
Yeah. Oh, yes, he has a little one left over that doesn't do him much good. They almost look like fingers, don't they? With long nails. Can you think of a bird that has 2 toes? A great big bird you might have seen at the zoo sometime. Sometimes people...
Ostrich.
Right. An ostrich only has 2 toes. Okay, the first bird family on the list is the penguin family. Let's look at a representative of another family.
Oh, I know what that
Here's
is.
Asa's special bird that he found one
I
day.
know what that is.
What is it, Elizabeth?
A yellow-bellied sapsucker.
A yellow-bellied sapsucker. Does it look as if it belonged to the penguin family?
No.
No. What family does it belong to?
Woodpecker.
The woodpecker family. Now, you know something about the woodpecker family. What makes a bird in the woodpecker family?
Its bill.
It's a bill.
Bill?
It pecks and trees.
Right. Its bill is, what's that sharp instrument you use to chisel? Oh, I told you.
Chisel.
It's chisel-shaped and very strong, good for drilling holes. So the bill is one thing that woodpeckers all have in common. And let's take a look at his toes, because they are almost like whose toes?
Aurora's.
Aurora's toes, see? If this woodpecker were perching on a branch, he'd have 2 in back and 2 in front, like Aurora. That's very unusual in birds.
Do all of Aurora's family have 2 toes in front and 2 toes in
Right,
back?
2 toes in front and 2 toes in back. And that's, if you had 4 toes, if these were your 4 toes and you were a woodpecker, it's this toe and this toe that go back, and the 2 middle ones come over in the front of the branch. See that? That's important too, which 2 toes it is. The 2 middle toes are in the front, and the outside toes are in the back. That's in the parrot and the woodpecker family.
Pretty hard to tell.
The woodpecker's tail's different too. Do you remember what his tail's good? What woodpecker's tails are used for?
Bottom.
What's the penguin use his tail for?
Steering.
Steering. The woodpecker.
Gliding?
The woodpecker uses his tail to prop himself up against the trunk of the tree to steady himself. He has
It's like a pitchfork.
sort of like a pitchfork. He sticks his sharp tail feathers in the bark, and he holds on with his strong toes, and then he can hammer, 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 hammer away with his head and get the insects out of the bark or drill his hole to build his nest. The woodpecker family that the yellow-bellied sapsucker belongs to. Would you like to guess how many kinds of birds there are in the whole world? How many kinds? There are 170 families. And how many birds do you think are in those 170 families? How many kinds?
700?
1 billion.
1,000.
9,600 different kinds of birds. And scientists think that almost all the birds in the world have been discovered. But just recently, just this year, 1 new bird was found in Puerto Rico.
What's it called?
It's called the elfin wood warbler. Isn't that a cute name?
What does
Elfin.
it look like?
Well, when we get to the warblers, you'll see. But it's very exciting to have a new bird discovered this year.
How many did they only discover 1?
Just 1 new one. So now maybe there are 9,601 kinds of birds.
What did they do with it?
Oh, they found more than 1, but they collected 1 to study in the laboratory so they could be sure it was a new kind. The woodpecker family. Here's a cute little bird. Now, Ace, you might know what this is, but you keep
A
it.
chickadee?
Oh, maybe you don't know what it is.
Sparrow?
No, can't be a sparrow, because sparrows have thick bills.
Oh, yes. Bird that went
Look at it. What could you say about its bill?
It's sharp.
It's very sharp and pointy, so what would it be good for?
Pecking.
Pecking,
Oh,
getting
I
little
think I know
insects
it.
out of cracks.
I can't remember what that kind of bird is.
And what about its tail?
It's very thin.
Well,
And short.
It's short, right. That's another thing about this little bird. And
cute.
it's cute, right? All these birds are birds that my friends have given to me because they crashed into their windows, their picture windows, and broke their necks. And I just keep them in the freezer so that they come in handy when we want to study something. This is a white-breasted nuthatch. And he belongs to a family called the nuthatch family, the Citidae. Bora's in the Citicidae, but this is in the Citidae. The white-breasted nuthatch with a very long, thin bill and a short tail and pretty long wings. So that's another family. I might give you a checkup at the end of the visit, so see if you can remember some of these families. Now, there's another family that's named Mimiidae because they mimic other birds. You know what that means, Elizabeth? Mimic?
Yeah, they copy, like,
They copy, right.
and I know a kind of butterfly that does that. It only copies one. It copies the monarch.
Right. The viceroy copies the monarch's colors. But what do the birds copy? They don't copy other birds' colors.
They call songs.
They're songs. And this is one of the mimic thrush family. Do you recognize it, Ace?
Brown thresher?
Very good. A brown thrasher. The birds in this family can sing some of the other birds' songs, and they have a bill that points it down a little bit. Can you see that? A D-curved bill, and it's very long, isn't it? Very long. And they also have very long tails.
And there's spotted breast.
And spotted breasts. But not all of the mimic thrushes have spotted breasts, but the brown thrasher does. That's the brown thrusher, and we're lucky enough to have a live member of this family at Hodgepodge Lodge today.
She looks alive.
He's in this piece of a gunny sack with lots of air coming through the holes. And he's probably not going to sing us any songs like other birds do, but he might squawk. Birds have different kinds of calls for different occasions. Yeah. Now, take a look at his bill. Does it curve down like the brown thrushes?
Yes.
It does, right. So, and does he have a pretty long tail for his size?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, those are two of the things that it takes to be in the mimic thrush family.
He also has whiskers.
Oh, oh, I guess a lot of birds have whiskers. Aurora, but Aurora doesn't have any whiskers.
She's the brown thrasher.
The brown-
Is that a male?
It's hard to tell. What kind of bird is this? This is the very best singer of the mimic thrushes.
A brown thrush. In the
This is
thrush
a brown
family.
thrasher.
That's
and
a
this
great
is
thrasher? Oh, a mockingbird?
right, a mockingbird, and he really is the best singer. There's one other mimic thrush around here, and that's the catbird. This is the mockingbird. Has a yellow eye and a white stripe on the wing, a white patch on the wing when it flies. You only see that when it flies, and when its wing is closed up, you just see a little white stripe. Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
And also when he flies, what can you see on the outside of his tail?
Some white.
Some white feathers. So if you see a gray bird fly away and it has a long tail with white outer tail feathers and patches of white on its wing, you can be pretty sure it's a mockingbird.
Do you know how fast he closes his eye? Because he does it like real quick.
And while we've got him, where we can get a good look at him, another way scientists tell about the families birds belong to is how the scales on their legs are arranged. Now, you can see on the mockingbird that he has scales on the front of his leg, but on the back it's a solid piece of skin. But some birds have scales all over their legs, and others have different arrangements. So that's another thing scientists look at, the scales on the legs and how they're arranged.
Does he have extra eyelids that come in from the side?
Well, we'll have to look and see, Ace. He probably does. Yes, I think that's what Elizabeth was seeing. His extra eyelid, remember the fancy name for that? The nictitating membrane.
Yeah, membrane.
And what good does it do the birds?
It's for protection.
Right, and wipes the dirt off their eyes.
Yeah, in the desert, we're learning about camels in school, and the camels have some that goes across their eyes when the sandstorms come.
Oh, great. When the sand blows, camels have a protective membrane. Very good, Ace. And maybe the birds in the desert have that arrangement, too. Would you like to pat the mockingbird before we put him back in the sack, and then we'll let him go?
Most birds that come to Hodgepodge Lodge just go.
Well, some birds that come to Hodgepodge Lodge are pretty
soft.
noisy, but the mockingbird is behaving very nicely.
Soft.
isn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
soft feathers.
Very soft, and even though he's mostly gray,
Scary.
he's different shades of gray, and he's very, very pretty. So, a bill that curves down and a very long tail, and being able to sing like some other birds.
Doesn't like me.
Other things that scientists use to put birds in families are things that you can't always see, like sometimes the way they behave, or where they live, or ways they build their nest. Those are all things that help scientists put birds in families. That was the mimic thrush family. Okay. Now, this is confusing because that was the mimic thrush family, and here is a bird that belongs to the thrush family. This is a Swainson's thrush, and this is a relative of a robin and a bluebird. They both belong to the thrush family. All the thrushes have spotted breasts when they're young, and some have them when they're old. Does a robin have a spotted breast when it's old?
No.
No, not when it's grown up.
It's just orange.
Just when it's a baby, when young robins have spotted breasts and so do young bluebirds. So that's a Swainson's thrush, a member of the thrush family. Now the family that we have the most birds of around here is probably the sparrow family. I'll give you this to look at in a minute so you can check the bill. This is a white-throated sparrow. Why don't you take a look at that, Elizabeth?
Sure, it's a
Let's
little
get another sparrow.
head and a little beak.
And a Savannah sparrow.
His neck is broken.
And here's sort of a mystery. I'll leave that one out. Ace, you take a look at the Savannah sparrow, and you and Elizabeth see how the bills of your birds are like.
They're pointed and they're short and pointed.
They're short and pointed, and are they thick or thin?
Thick.
Thick. And so is this. This is a tricky bird. This is a female bobolink. Now, if it were a male bobolink, it would be a beautiful, shiny black underneath and sort of a creamy white on top. But this is a female, and she's sort of striped, and that helps her be camouflaged when she's sitting on her nest in the field.
He's still bleeding.
Both of these have yellow up on the.
Oh, that's a good thing to notice, Ace. So,
His eye or something's still bleeding.
well, no, it's just that they're unfreezing. They're thawing out from the freezer. So this is a bobolink in the sparrow family with a thick bill. And counting the feathers of the wings, the primary feathers, the ones that they use to fly with, is another way that scientists put birds in families. Let's take a look at the yellow in the white-throated sparrow. Shows better on this side. A little yellow spot right in front of its eye that gets brighter in the springtime, sort of dull in the winter. And yours has just a sort of thin yellow line over the top.
When they're in the freezer, do their eyes sort of fall out?
No, they just sort
Same
of
here.
dry up. You know, if you keep anything in the freezer too long, it gets dry. Even beefsteak and peas.
Oh, I hate that.
Savannah sparrow, the white-throated sparrow, and the bobolink, all in the sparrow family, plus this beautiful creature.
Oh, that looks like a cardinal. Gosh, he
Right.
has a really thick.
Is this a male cardinal or a
Yes,
female cardinal? It's
it's
a
a
male
male
cardinal
cardinal.
because it's bright red.
Pretty.
And you can tell by his very thick bill that he's a seed eater, like all these other members of the sparrow family.
And thick bill is red.
And his
too.
thick bill is red.
Most of them
the prettiest
aren't
one
usually
there.
colored.
Let's take a look at another family, and maybe we'll have time to take a look at the mockingbird once more. Now these birds, remember the new bird I told you that was discovered in Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the family it belonged to, the wood warbler family. And they all have very thin bills like little needles. See how thin they are?
That'd be
Yeah.
okay for eating worms.
Insects mostly, little tiny insects. They flit around the tops of trees and they eat lots of bugs and insects, and that's why they're very good to have around.
That'd be easy to do.
There's the myrtle warbler with a yellow rump. See his yellow rump? And here is the female yellow throat. She has a good name. She has a yellow throat. And here's a really nice one called the oven bird, which sort of looks like a thrush with a spotted breast, but it doesn't have a thrush's bill.
Is his neck broken?
Yep, they all have broken necks from hitting windows.
How do they get broken? I always run into doors, windows, and all the time. I never get it.
You don't run head on, though. And on the top, the oven bird has a little orange spot. See that? When it sings in the woods, it says, teacher, 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 teacher.
They all have yellow spots.
And that's another warbler. And here is a little tiny young redstart. If he were grown up, he would have red in his wings instead of yellow, and red in his tail. But this is a young one, so it has yellow instead of the red. A yellow patch in the tail, yellow in the wings.
That's
So what family are those in?
The
thrush.
The wood warblers.
oh yeah,
And that's what the, well, if you want to tell somebody something interesting, tell them about the elfin woods warbler that was just discovered in Puerto Rico, a new bird. And nobody knows why they've missed it before, except the woods is very thick and hardly any people go there. But it's very exciting to have a new bird discovered after all these years when people have been out looking for birds all over the world. Mockingbird, would you like to come in?
Did they stay in the woods or did somebody else?
A man and his wife who were doing research on things in the jungle went to live there, and they were looking at other birds, but they just happened to keep seeing this bird, and then they realized that it was a bird that they didn't know, and then they had a friend come down and he didn't know it either, so that's when they decided it was a new bird. Now while we're looking at the mockingbird, tell me what families we've found out about today. We haven't found out about 170 different families.
The warble family.
The wood warbler family.
And the woodpecker family.
The woodpecker family.
The cardinal family.
The cardinal family or sparrow family.
And the thrush
finches.
family.
And the thrush family.
The grosbeak family.
Well, the grosbeaks are in with the cardinals and the sparrows. What was the first family we looked at? The very first one on the list.
The woodpecker.
No.
Yellow-bellied?
No, the bird from Antarctica.
Oh, penguin.
The penguin family. There's 17 different kinds of penguins. This was an Adelie penguin. And what family does the mockingbird belong to?
The mockingbird family.
What can it do?
The
Thrush
A special kind of thrush.
The browns,
It imitates other birds, so
mimic thrush.
the mimic thrush. Good, Elizabeth. The penguin family, the parrot family, the woodpecker family, the sparrow family,
The thrush family.
the thrush family, the nuthatch family, don't forget the cute little nuthatch, the wood warbler family, and the mimic thrush family. The penguins are first on the list, and the sparrows that the cardinal and the bobolink and the sparrows belong to are at the end of the list. They're the most complex of the birds. I hope you'll look around your neighborhood and see how many bird families you can recognize, and take a trip to the museum and see some more there. Goodbye, and come back soon again to Hodgepodge Lodge.
This program was made possible through funds contributed by members of the Maryland Center for Public Broadcasting.
Pre-recorded in the studios of the Maryland Center for Public Broadcasting.